Kids and Sports coming up next.
What an excellent way to start the day. Right here with me, Coach Mike, Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in. I have a great show for you today. I know it. For one thing, we're doing something different that we don't do as much as we do other things. And number one, we're going to be talking football today. And I love football, but I just don't get as many football people in here. Can you believe that? But we're going to have one today, that's for sure. And we're going to learn from an experienced coach. That's be good. But first, there's homework to do. Coach has got to give you the homework, got to do the crunches, you got to run the mile. Well, in this case, you got to check out my website, and that's www.kidzandsports.com. That's KIDZ, N as in Nancy, sports.com. For those of you that are struggle with all the text lingos and stuff like that, I'd also have yourkidsandsports.com. All one word spelled together correctly. If that's easier for you, that's cool too. But my email address, you got to do it the Coach Mike at kidsandsports.com. Love to hear from you. Give me ideas for the show. Give me complaints. Give me argument. You want to get on the show and argue with me about something on your sports? Hey, why not? We'll take a shot at it. There's all sorts of ways to get it going. How'd you like the show last week? Wasn't that great? We had the Norwalk girls softball 10 under All-Stars in here. They were absolutely fantastic. If you love this show, you got to help support it. I need sponsors here, so come on out. I'm here for you. I'm here to help your kids have a better youth sports experience, and every show is geared around that. Here, bringing you stories, whether it's players, coaches, parents, officials. I want to give you out what's out there. There's a lot of experience out there, and I think that most of the time when we have problems in youth sports, I don't care what the league is, softball, baseball, whatever, it's because some people, we all get it when we all want to do our own thing. We want to make our niche. We want to be able to do it our way, so to speak, or we want to add our stamp to the team, and that's cool. That's great. But you know what? Especially when you're just starting out, you should be willing to learn. And learn from those that have gone ahead of you. And that's sometimes where I see the problem is sometimes people think, oh, they got it all down and they're going to tell you how to do it. And, I was involved with a league one time. They had great people on the board, but every year, half of the board members or more were complaining that they were the ones doing it all the time. They'd like to get some new blood in there. And, boy, it'd be great if somebody else stepped up. And then when that happened, when other people stepped up, then the first thing they would do, well, you got to do it this way. If you don't do it this way, you're not doing it right. So there needs to be that balance. So we've probably seen that in your workplace at times too, right? The experienced people always want to, you want their experience, but then at the same time, there's some of them that are real good about sharing their experience and helping people. And there's others that feel that they sort of need to dictate or sometimes they even get very condescending. And so that doesn't work either, and that sort of turns people off. So it's great when you see some experienced people, new people, whether it's at work or on the field, that can get together and form that team bond, and boy, things can click really nice. We got to remember that one thing. It's out here for the kids. We're here for the kids. When you go to the website, sign up for my newsletter, Coach, not Coach, that's my email. On the one side of the website there, you'll see a little button. You can sign up for an email. I put something out every week. Gives you a head up on what's coming up on the show. Little other tidbits. Usually a favorite quote or two I'll put in there. Sometimes other stories, what's going on. Sometimes special offers. CustomLineupCards.com, for example. A lot of times I'll put a little coupon in there for some extra cards or how you might have it, okay? So check that out. One thing I talked about a little bit this week, I don't know if you were watching the Boston-Tampa Bay game yesterday. I noticed later in the website or the internet I was going last night, there was apparently a blown call that they felt cost Boston the game. I think Tampa Bay won it. And, I went back and looked at it, and of all the blown calls over all the years, this is one of the ones. Boston's coach came out and went ballistic and got thrown out of the game and everything. And yeah, the calls were on. He admitted later, but he also admitted, I was watching ESPN Sports Zone or whatever, that he was blocked out by the catcher, and so it was a point he sort of assumed the catcher made the tag. Well, if he can't see from that side, he doesn't have a lot of choice, does he? He's making the best call he could based on what he could see. Of all the bad calls I've seen in any sport over the years, to me, this was not one of the worst ones. The guy's foot hit the plate a fraction of a second. I mean, just a blink of an eye that it hit the corner of the plate and crossed off. And it was just another split second before the catcher put the tag on him. I mean, it was boom, boom. It was so quick. And if you think that's easy to get out there, when I put my newsletter out there, I put a link to an old show. I love that show, Sports Science. I think somebody said it's still airing. But they did a show one time about being a major league umpire. And believe me, the talk show or the host of the show found out real quick why it's not so easy. Okay? You've got to make split-second decisions, and you got to make it really quick. And if you think it's easy, get out there and try it. Get out there and try it at any given time. All right, we're going to move on. My guest just called in. I'm going to tell you, a couple of years ago, I've been doing this show for over 5 years now. And several years ago, I had a coach on that a friend told me about from Colorado Springs named George Reikovich. He'd been coaching at one place for 36 years. This guy, unbelievable experience. We got that opportunity in a different way today, right here in Southern California. And I think I lost him. You still there? Okay, my light's not blinking. All right.
I'm here.
You are here. Good. All right. We got that opportunity again today, right here from Southern California. Coach Harry Welch has been coaching football as a head coach for over 25 years. He's won, I think it's 9 CIF titles. He's won at 3 different schools. So what does that tell you? He must know something about football, and we're lucky enough to have Coach Welch with us today. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike. I hope you and your listeners are very well.
Oh, you know what? I'm fantastic today. A lot better than yesterday. I was really tired. I'd worked like 3-4 days in a row. I haven't stood on my feet that much in ages. And boy, I was
keep
paying
doing
the
that,
price.
we're going to hire you as a football coach.
I would have loved to do that, Coach. At my age now, I'm probably behind the game. But I think back, if I could go back, because football's a game that I didn't get to play it. I had a family doctor said too many permanent injuries, and I ran cross country in high school. But I look back and I think of all the coaches out there. I love coaching softball, but all the coaches out there, football and baseball are the two that if I could do that. But there's just the thing about football. If you didn't play it, there's only one guy I know of that was very successful, and he didn't play the game. But other than that, pretty hard to get in that fraternity, isn't it?
Mike, it's a very special fraternity. It is somewhat limited, but I believe that all of our experiences as we grow up are so invaluable, and football just happens to be one that I have a skill in, and I use that to try to develop the young men and women into better citizens. Their parents provide me with these wonderful diamonds, and I spend my years just trying to polish these wonderful diamonds that the parents give us. But football is truly unique. However, all of our life experiences are wonderful, and some of them are so positively growth experiencing, regardless of the endeavor, that it's magnificent. We do so many positive things with our parents, our mentors, and sometimes our coaches.
There you go. Coach Welch, before we get into your coaching experience, tell me about your youth sports career.
Well, I was second string everything, Mike. And I go back so far. I started playing marbles. You talked about getting a little older. Some people kid me that I was right there with Moses. When he crossed the Red Sea. Well, I wasn't actually there, but Moses and I did play marbles together.
There you go.
And but I loved sports. My earliest memories are of leaving the house in the morning, going outside, and in those days we'd say, "Let's go outside and play." I'm not sure that's what's the popular expression anymore, but I remember going out in the morning, playing till we grabbed something to eat, and then going back outside and playing again till it was dark. I loved every sport and every activity that the older boys and girls would show me, and then when I was old enough to be involved with and lead others. But I do not know that in those days there was a sport that I didn't appreciate. I played some football, played some basketball, ran some track, just fell in love with baseball. Back in my early days, soccer and lacrosse and some of the sports that are so magnificent today were not as popular as they are. So I think the young people today have so many opportunities in so many varying sports. I mean, I have a wonderful grandson who's a terrific tennis player. I watch so many of the volleyball. I used to play beach volleyball, and that was an incredible experience. I don't know a sport that if people bring their passion, excitement, and joy to, that truly isn't worthwhile and growth-producing.
I would have to agree. I think, unfortunately, today we got a lot of the kids that are, we got caught up with our modern technology now, and it seems like fewer of them are doing sports. And back then, I've shared the story with a number of coaches that have come on that are my age or older, and we've all said the same thing. We didn't have mom or dad taking us out to play. We got to go out and, we went out and played. We played football on the street. I remember Bill Cosby's street football. And
Absolutely.
That's sort of how it was. We'd go out there and draw plays, and you run past the red Buick or whatever it was, and you played. And you played till mom said it was time to come in, and that was it.
We may have played on the same street, Mike. Those are my memories, and I think most of us probably, unfortunately, remember hitting a baseball and hearing a window break and going, "Oh my gosh!" Number one, I'm going to be terribly embarrassed to tell the people that I broke their window, but most importantly, I've got to go get my baseball back. It's the only one we have.
I got one for you. We come back from the break here, Coach. I'm going to tell you because one of the lessons you like to teach, I had to learn. But we got to take a commercial break real quick, and then we'll be back in just a second. Kids and Sports with my guest, Coach Harry Welch from Santa Margarita's High School.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you're a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
We are the Three Guys Rant.
With Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69 Three Guys. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar,
Carlos Madrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
Coach Mike here. Kids and Sports, the Rant Radio Network. Catch the show live every Tuesday from 9 to 11 Pacific Time at www.rantradionetwork.com. If you don't make that, there's a rotation. You can catch it, or you can go to the Kids and Sports website and check it from the archive page. My guest today, football coach Harry Welch from Santa Margarita High School here in Southern California. Coach Welch, you brought up something. I've been doing this show 5 years, and nobody brought back that painful story that I had to live one day when I was a kid in Tempe, Arizona, and I was out. And I didn't hit a baseball, so I didn't have to go chase it. I would go outside if I didn't have a ball. I didn't want to lose the ball, so I'd hit rocks. And One night it was starting to get a little dark. It wasn't quite dark yet, and I was out there swinging and hitting rocks, and I hit a pop fly, I guess, and it just happened to come down in somebody's windshield as they were driving by, and I ran in the house real quick. Well, a little bit, pretty soon somebody knocked on the door, and somebody out there, some kid ran down. Oh, he must have run down the alley. After the guy left, my how come you're sweating so hard? So I hope they don't get, a long time ago, I hope they don't come back and get me, but boy, that was the thing.
It was a terrifying experience, and sometimes growing up is terrifying. Obviously, you remember that very, very clearly, and it appears to me you've learned a lesson about that, and your values have solidified as such that you might handle that a little differently today. But since that has stayed with you for these many years, it's clear that that was positive and traumatic at the same time. Positive in who you've become, and traumatic at the time what happened. But I think we all have those, and hopefully through sports and other activities we learn and grow.
There you go. Coach, you were saying you were second string everything. You did all these sports, did a lot of things. You got a well-rounded education in the sports world. What led you to football for coaching?
Well, that's very interesting. I started off my college education at a marvelous university, the University of Santa Clara, and I ran out of funds, and my family could not afford to continue to subsidize me at the university. So I returned to home, and when I visited my high school, which was Crespi High School in Encino, California, and the head coach there, a terrific coach, just wonderful, and he said, I'm looking for a freshman football coach for next year. And I said, well, I really don't know much about football or coaching football. And he said, I'll help you. At the same time, the baseball coach asked me if I would come out and help him a little bit with baseball. And I was really, really pleased to have both of these offers. When I went out as an assistant baseball coach, head coach was a fellow by the name of John Becker, who ended up being a great football coach and then went on to work in the NFL for about 25 years. Anyway, the catcher on that team was a young fellow, and I spent some time with him, and I thought, boy, I have made this young man so good. I must have a very special gift. Well, the young man's name was Rick Dempsey. And Rick Dempsey went on to play in the major leagues for about 15 years, and I think he's still affiliated with the Baltimore Orioles, and he's a character and a half. But I think that experience with Rick and John Becker really was my first experience in coaching, and it lit a bit of a fire, even though at the time I was thinking I was a lot better than I was. Rick Dempsey was already a terrific catcher and a terrific, great baseball player, but I thought, boy, this coaching stuff is easy. I just show up and look how good I make this young man. And then the following year, I was a freshman football coach, and I happened to have people around me that were exceptional football coaches, and I borrowed from everyone. I borrowed from the people that were around me. I borrowed from men and women that I admired in my years growing up, my teachers, priests, ministers. I did some reading. I developed probably an idol worship for Vince Lombardi. So I guess I got the bug, and then I found out that not only was it a very good experience to coach and have the enjoyment of the games, I got to see the growth of the young men who played for me, and I realized that coaching football, I could do an awful lot more with young men than I could ever do just having them win football games. And so that became something for me. I think lots of young men go through times where they're thinking about, how can I help the world? Perhaps how can I change the world? I think there was even a time where I was considering being a priest, but that didn't last very long when I discovered that there were beautiful women in the world. But I realized that I could make a difference. I could reach people. I could help them through difficult times. I could challenge them and push, although I didn't use the expression back then, but I could push to the edge of the envelope. And then when the boys got there, I could push the edge a little further and a little further. And I actually could see growth as men that was so very rewarding for me and has remained so. I started coaching in 1965, and this will be my 25th year as a head football coach. And I don't know that there's been one year that hasn't brought me a great deal of personal satisfaction.
Well, you touched on something there. I don't know if you know a guy named Nelson Cook. I'm involved with his ministry, Coaches of Influence, and one of the favorite quotes that we have on the website that I like from Grant Teaff, the director of the American Football Coaches Association, is, if all you're doing is coaching football, or I put in there, or any other sport, you're not doing enough. There's so much more to it, isn't there? There is so much more to it, and in some ways I feel a little sorry for some people that do not see that. I'm hoping, and I believe that most realize that they can do so very, very much more. I have read, studied, and found that good mentors in our society are essential, and we can truly make a difference. There's a beautiful little vignette in John Grisham's novel, The Bleachers, and this old coach in, I believe it's Mississippi, is dying, and his former coaches come back to pay their last respects. Well, the wife of the dying coach doesn't want to be disturbed. She wants to have these last days with her husband with some privacy and dignity. And so the former players from many years, they come and they sit in the bleachers and they reminisce. And
one story tells about this all-state linebacker, and the other people there go, "You must have really loved Coach." And he said, "No." He says, "I hated him." And they were all so shocked. He said, "But let me tell you, some years ago I was in Vietnam, and I was a young husband. I had a wonderful set of parents, and we were going up the Mekong River, and we were attacked, and a shell hit our little boat that we were on and exploded it, and many of my friends were killed right then, and the explosion launched me into the river, and I could see bullets from AK-47s tracing me under the water, and I knew if I came up for air, I'd be dead, and so I swam downriver under water as far as I could. But my life was on the line, and at that moment, I realized I might never see my parents again, and I might never see this woman I loved so much, but all I could remember was this high school football coach in my face saying, "Don't give up. Wow. Don't you ever give up." And he said, my lungs almost burst, but I swam, and I kept remembering Coach saying, "Don't you ever give up." And I swam underwater until I was safe. And then, obviously, years later, here he was, back to pay his respects for a man who perhaps had saved his life, and he had a different point of view on him later. So, anyway, I've remembered that, and I treasure that, and I believe those types of stories, some things are so important in our lives that at the moment, perhaps even we resent them, but later we realize how strongly positive they are.
Well, just, you remind me there, Coach, and we're talking, I grew up in Tempe, and so my idol was Frank Cush, and when Frank Cush got fired from ASU back in the early 80s, there was a lot of the players came to his support, and they said, they obviously weren't in the Vietnam War, but they said the same thing. There were times where they hated him, but some of them made it to the NFL, and they said, we wouldn't have been successful if it wasn't for what Coach taught us. And so what you brought in there, the values of that, are so much more important than just that one game you're playing.
I hope so, Mike. I hope that's what I'm about. I've had more than I deserve, more success and more championships than I deserve. But I hope that I have committed and dedicated my life to making a positive difference in the lives of the young men and women who have come through my life. I treasure some of the experiences and the misinterpretations of Coach Bobby Knight at Indiana.
Sure.
I think all of us can agree that some of his actions were excessive, but some of them were growth-producing, that he created great citizens.
There you go. We got to take another commercial break, but I'll be right back. Kids and Sports with my guest, Harry Welch, in just a minute.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
The
theticketsurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. Theticketsurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out, we're your people. Concept, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
All right. Coach Mike, back at you. Sitting here in the beautiful Rant Radio Towers, the rantradionetwork.com. Check out the show, share with your friends. My guest today is Santa Margarita head football coach Harry Welch. And Harry, one of the guys was asking me at the break, I said, I was telling him about the value when I get to talk to a coach that's been doing it as long as you. And he said, aren't you an old coach too, Mike? I said, well, I'm old. But I said, I've only got 10 years of high school softball experience here. You were coaching when I was in about the 7th grade. You started coaching. So, I mean, that's I really value that.
Coach Mike, thank you very much. But I'm not sure it matters your age. I'm certain the positive impact that you have had on the young men and women that have come through your life is literally priceless. And I would imagine that sooner or later they will express that to you, and that's probably the greatest reward we can get. It certainly isn't a monetary compensation, but to know that we've made a difference in society in a good way is invaluable.
And like an artist usually doesn't know their work never becomes famous till after they're long past, and sometimes that's true with coaches. Coach, what's if there's one or two coaches you could name that had the biggest impact on your life and your coaching career that really helped you step it up to a new level, who would they be?
That's a very good question, Coach Mike. From a distance, when I was very young, obviously the great Vince Lombardi was someone that I cherished. For most of my life, for more than 40 years, I was a high school English teacher. Vince Lombardi started his career as a high school English teacher at St. Cecilia High School in New Jersey. So I certainly related with that. I always related with his commitment, his focus, his ability to do little things very, very well, and to work on perfection. And I'm not positive this is a Lombardi quote, but it may well have been. But I live it, and I try to communicate this to those around me, and it goes something like, in striving for perfection, we can often achieve excellence. And I like that. I like that as a bit of personal philosophy, especially if it's something that's good, that we can strive to do something perfectly good. And though we may not reach that, if we reach excellence in goodness, that's excellent. And then there was a track coach at Crespi High School. His name was Bill Leeds, probably the single most successful high school coach in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Just a remarkable coach. In fact, he won 136 consecutive track meets. Amazing, but his attention to detail, his intelligence, his work ethic, and his love for what he was doing inspired me. I had the good fortune to work with him and under him for a few years. In fact, he asked me to coach shot put, and if you ever were to see me, I have I have arms that are reminiscent of pipe cleaners, and to ask me to take over the shot putting duties, but he inspired me to work on detail and to challenge the young men. And in the next several years, my players won CIF championships in shot put. And we used to, in those days, we used to have what they called exponents, and boys would and girls would compete according to their age, height, and weight. And we won CIF championships at the C level, CIF championships at the B level, and then had some great success on the varsity level. In fact, one young man who was a shot-putting student of mine, he had a lot of success. He ended up throwing the shot 67 feet, 10 inches, and then he had a pretty good career at UCLA, and he had a pretty good career because he spent 9 years snapping the ball to Joe Montana, and his name was Randy Cross.
Wow.
So just had some wonderful mentors myself who allowed me to bring out the very best both athletically and personally in other men. So it's, from a Vince Lombardi at the national level to a Bill Leeds at a very small school in Encino, California, I think our heroes can be right there in front of us. Often I believe our greatest heroes are our parents and our siblings.
There you go.
Well, I believe that, and often, our ministers and the people that clearly are striving to do the best they can and make the world a better place. And I draw a great deal of strength from those people. To me, Nelson Mandela is the ultimate mensch. I look up to him and what he has done. He inspires me in so many personal ways, and there are many, many heroes out there that I think all of us can draw on their strength and what they did with their lives.
Okay, Coach. Now, championships at 3 different schools. Again, that points to the fact that you do know something about coaching. If the 3 different schools aren't Mater Dei, Cal Poly, and what's the one up north, De La Salle or something, if those 3 were on your list, I'd say, well, anybody, I could probably walk in there and have some success. You've gone to 3 different schools, 3 different levels. What is your philosophy of coaching, and what do you think has allowed you to carry that success to different schools like that?
Well, Coach Mike, thank you. That's very nice of you to mention these wonderful teams that I've had. First of all, I was fortunate enough in my very last year at Canyon High School up in the Santa Clarita Valley in 2006 to play De La Salle and the incredible, best ever coach in California, Bob Ladouceur. And it was really my honor and privilege to play him in the first ever State of California Bowl championship. And we were very fortunate to win that game when Canyon High School defeated De La Salle for the state championship. So that was really a wonderful experience. But what I try to do is I try to be me. I try to give all that I believe that I'm capable of giving. I stress doing little things well. I've had people graduate from West Point, graduate from the Naval Academy, and sometimes they come back and they say that one of their advantages was when times were difficult or things were stressful at the academy, that they would remember that Coach Welch always said, take care of the little things, do the little things as well as you can. And there was a special ops commander who also had played for me, and when he left special ops, his troops gave him an award, and it said, to this fellow's name, said to our commander, who insisted that we do the little things well. So I guess day in and day out, what I've tried to do is do not only the best that I can do, and when I didn't, to refocus, but to keep this attention to detail. And I have two of the most beautiful, wonderful daughters in the entire world, but I don't have any sons. And so for me, I've adopted a few thousand sons over the years. And now I'm blessed. I've got 5 grandchildren that I would literally die for. Boy, am I so late in life. I've become very, very blessed. And then I have a wife, Cindy, that I cannot believe how beautiful she is in so many ways, and how she makes life even more worth living. So my attention to detail, I've been blessed with marvelous assistant coaches everywhere that I have gone, and I have been given these precious diamonds every year. These moms and dads trust me with their beautiful jewels, and many of them are very, very talented, and I have been able to bring them together and have them play a silly sport, but play it pretty well.
One of the toughest sports out there, and in football more than any other sport, I think you really have to rely on those assistant coaches a lot more, don't you?
Absolutely. Without great assistant coaches, there is little or no chance for success, and the amount of success that I have is directly attributable to the hard work, talent, insight, and love that these assistant coaches provide every day to the young men that trust them and believe in them and become better because of them. So you're absolutely right. It might be a little different in some sports, but in football, the assistant coaches are every bit as important as a head coach.
Oh, absolutely. We have a softball. You might have a pitching coach, batting coach, some defense. You probably have that many coaches just on the offensive line and stuff. So, but I want to talk to you when we get back from the break here, Coach. I want to talk to you about some of those diamonds, because those are, if we don't have the kids to work with, then we don't have a job either. Coach Mike here, Kidz and Sports at the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Looking for a delicious, fresh family meal that's ready when you are and easy on your budget? Welcome to Piara Pizza. We make our pizzas with handmade dough, 100% real cheese, and tomato sauce blended with our own spices. Nothing is ever frozen. We always have large pepperoni and cheese pizzas fresh and waiting for you for only $5. Or choose one of our specialty pizzas. We have veggie, meat lovers, supreme, and Hawaiian. Add an order of our amazing hot wings, cheesy bread, or breadsticks. Our locations are ultra-modern, ultra-clean, and open 7 days a week. Visit any one of our locations today, or check us out on the web at www.piarapizza.com. Piara Pizza. Fresh, hot, and ready for you when you come in. Stop in for your Piara Pizza today.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar.
Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Coach Mike back at you. I love my music. Thanks to my friend Dan Malone for creating that for me. Coach Mike here at the Rant Radio Network Kids and Sports. My guest, Harry Welch, today, head football coach at Santa Margarita. Coach, it'd be easy to drop names. I know you've coached thousands. We could probably do a couple more hours on the players you coached. I think I faced one. I see you were at St. Margaret's in 2008. My daughter was dating a gentleman from Brethren Christian, and St. Margaret, I think it was about 2008 or 2009, you had some little guy in the background. I won't say it was the whole team, but he was so fast. I couldn't remember his name, but he was just unstoppable.
Oh, I spent 3 marvelous years at St. Margaret's Episcopal School in San Juan Capistrano, and there were so many young men that just achieved beyond what I had ever anticipated going in there. We were there. I was there 3 years, and we had 3 CIF championships and another state championship. And my tailbacks were they were working so well, but it was truly it's a very, very small school. The numbers on the team were very small, but everyone contributed, from Johnny Muriyama, who probably was 5'4" and 130 pounds, if you can believe that. But if you measured him as a man, he was a giant. He was 6'8", 300 pounds if you measured his heart or his will or his brain, and incredibly quick. The first year there was a boy named Hunter Steffian, and this guy had a smile and the looks that he belonged on the cover of GQ magazine, but you'd put him on a football field, and he was a man, and played football so well, and played it the right way. He played it with style, and each of the boys did. Played it with style and character and great sportsmanship. And had marvelous respect for their opponents, but while they were doing that, they still played the game with supreme intensity and executed to the very highest level. Very, very proud of them. And I was, coming over here to Santa Margarita Catholic High School. I've found that the boys were very similar courage, similar bravery, terrific intelligence, discipline, care for one another, highest moral standards. Coach Mike, you talked about some of the players. I have had many players. I alluded earlier to a Randy Cross, one of the great centers ever to play in the NFL. I was so blessed with, but I think I'm most proud of each of the individuals. I attended a funeral of one of my players 2 years ago, and his widow came up to me, and she had 2 young daughters. And with tears in her eyes, she came up to me at the memorial service, or actually the funeral, and said, I'm going to raise his daughters, her daughters also, his daughters, the way you loved and raised my husband.
Wow.
So I think I'm most proud of each of the men and women. I've had the world's greatest managers that assist me, and I've been so fortunate. I had a boy graduate last year from United States Air Force Academy. I have a young man that last October I helped him get into the Naval Academy. He graduated 4th in his class, and last October he asked my wife Cindy and me to go down to Coronado. He received his Trident pin as a member of the Navy SEALs. I have another young man who asked me to go to his promotion just this past April, his promotion down in Fort Bliss, Texas, which is a suburb of El Paso, and he was promoted from major to lieutenant colonel, and he had graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point.
Wow.
So whether they went to the NFL or United States military academies, or just became, and maybe most importantly, great husbands and great fathers, those are the men I'm most proud of, people that contributed in the very highest degree to our society and our culture. So since 1965, I've been one of the luckiest men in the world to have these great people come to me, and I've been able to watch them grow and to give back.
Well, Coach, let me ask you something. The one player, if you could pick one out, and I remember talking to Coach Speck from Cincinnati Xavier a few years ago, and he had carried a roster. I think he said about 96 boys on the roster. So I know you've had a lot of kids out there. But if there was one player that when he came out, you said, why is this kid even out here? What do you think? What makes you think you're going to make my team? And yet he surprised you. Could you pick one out?
Well, probably every year there are young men that surprise us in the most positive way. But to single out one who has been the greatest positive surprise might, in a way, for me, be unfair. To me, I think I mentioned a little earlier in the show, in a way they were all my sons.
Sure.
And I really don't have a favorite son, but I love each one of them. So for me people ask me, well, what's your favorite team? What's your best team? I don't have a favorite team or a favorite son, but I've had young men who I would be willing to take a bullet for, and sadly, but most honorably, I have been asked to give the eulogy at 3 former players' funerals, and I have to say that I feel so honored to have been a coach, so honored to have been a teacher, and most of my life I'm an English teacher or a social studies teacher. That has been the greatest reward for me, just to be involved with these young men and women, to hopefully be there and help them through a very difficult time, because it is difficult growing up. Even with the best of parents, there are challenges and difficulties. And actually, I think that's quite good. I think it's good to get a bloody nose and some rejection sometimes, and to realize that life does not always go so easily, but we can use these as life lessons and rise above them and become better. So I don't have a single person, but I have hundreds of those memories, and they've all been so good for me.
There you go. I had a saying. We had a T-shirt when I was coaching in Newport Harbor. I saw a quote and said it said a calm sailor never a calm sea never a skillful sailor made.
Very good.
I think that's
very
exactly
good.
what you're
Yes.
talking about there. We've only got a couple minutes left, Coach. 2 quick ones. Now, I pride myself. I've never been tossed of a game that I've coached or played in. I did get tossed as a scorekeeper once. Did you ever? I'll tell you about that one sometime. Did you ever have such a privilege? I imagine with all the games you've had at least one.
I have never been tossed from a game, and I have to tell you, I have grown to appreciate and respect the officials much, much more than I came into this sport with that admiration and appreciation. They are the unsung heroes of sports, and they deserve so much more credit. We don't have great events in any sport without terrific officials. Now, in years past, I had the longest winning streak in America once, and we lost up at Antelope Valley. We were 46 games in a row, and had the head official was the baseball coach, and the next head official was the assistant principal, and they returned a very questionable punt. Anyway, the other team kicked off from our 15-yard line. So I think there were times I did express myself to these men wearing these zebra-style shirts, but no, I've never been tossed.
Well, congrats. That is a record by itself there. Coach, the amazing, I was looking to a little story. I mentioned George Rankovich. I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of talking to him, but, he coached 36 seasons at one school, which was pretty amazing. And I've just saw an article here that the new coach now, since he stepped down, asked him to come back. The kid actually played for him many years ago, and the kid actually asked him to come back. So I see he's back on the field. So congratulations. I know you announced your retirement, but I got a feeling you won't be leaving the field anytime soon, Coach.
Mike, I have really enjoyed today. I'll be a fan and a faithful listener, and I want to thank you very, very much for allowing me to be on your show today.
Well, I sure appreciate you being here, Coach. Best of luck. Actually, it's not like best wishes for this season, and I hope you can go out with a bang. I know it's going to be hard to compete, but always that last one is a very special one for all the reasons you mentioned during the show here, because all those you're going to be remembering all those memories, all the years, and you've apparently done a very good job with that, and congratulations on a successful career. Coach Mike here, my guest Terry Welch from Santa Margarita High School in Southern California, and we appreciate Coach Welch for being here the first hour. I will be taking your calls the second hour, so get ready. The number's on the screen. Coach Mike at Kidz and Sports will be back in just a minute.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
We are the Three Guys Rant with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69-THE-3-GUYS.
It's not the three guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen, then you never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
TheTicketSurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. TheTicketSurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Party. Oh, okay. I got to go to work. Coach Mike here, Kids and Sports at the Rant Radio Network. 855-693-4897 or 855-969-7268. Your choice. Give me a call if you want to talk about anything Coach Welch had said the last hour. What a privilege to be able to talk with a coach with that kind of experience. I mean, I see a book coming out. I hope Coach Welch writes a book, because like he said, he couldn't pick out one son, but I bet he could write a whole book with dozens of players that just have overcome whatever. Like I said, every high school coach will tell you out there in any sport, just about every year, you've got players try out for the team that, like in my case, they've never played softball. And usually I've been at either smaller schools or schools with the program maybe wasn't as big. So sometimes we need to take some of those players if they got some athletic ability and help train them and give them the opportunity. And sometimes they will surprise you. So it does not surprise me. Every coach has that. But to hear Coach Welch like that, here's over the years, how many players has he coached? With 25 years as head coach, 30-some years as a coach. Wow. I mean, I'm sure he could write a couple of books and just the motivation and bring that back. Send me your emails. Coach Mike at kidsinsports.com. That's Kidz, and is nancysports.com. I forgot to mention during the first hour, you can actually get the Kids in Sports app now in the Google Play Store. And so if you'd rather get a text message instead of my regular email newsletter, you can get the app, and there's a place on there for you to subscribe, and I'll send you the newsletter on your phone. So isn't that cool? I mean, come on, let's hear it. Isn't that cool? Yes. Okay. Listen to the roar. Check out the website, www.kidsinsports.com. Baseball or softball coaches, get those lineup cards. Your winter season is almost upon you, or fall season. It was funny. For years they called it winter ball. Now it's fall. They actually separate it. Does that mean we play too much? We need to get a break in between? Maybe. Right now, my dead period starts in 2 days, so I don't get to see the girls for a month till school starts. And then I get to work on the diamonds that I've been given to coach with. I love Coach Welch's attitude about his players. No, did you hear the respect he has for the officials, for his assistant coaches, for the other players? And I'm sure, football's a tough sport. I'm sure he does a little yelling down there. I don't know a football coach that doesn't. And you have to. Football is a tough game. Now, obviously, there's, if you want to look at rugby or Australian rules football, I think those guys got to, if anybody needed some sort of drugs before they play, it's probably those guys. Just they take the painkillers before the game starts or something. But out there, you got to be tough. And I've heard just like Coach said, I heard it when I used to watch, when Frank Kush got fired, these players said, we hated him at times. But look what he did. Look where he got us. He helped us get there. Now, like Coach Welch said, he didn't do it all for him. The coach didn't do it all. The coach helped mold it. Like he said, he helped polish the diamonds a little bit. Diamonds were already there. The diamonds were already there. My first year at Western High School, I had a diamondaire named Kaylee Poulot, who's a star at Georgia as a freshman this year, did a great job. I didn't make Kaylee into who she was. She was already a diamond. I hope I had a little more polish on there, and she did a great job this year. And I just am so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to work with these kids and help them reach their goals. And if you're a coach, there's a couple of things that I would recommend that you do is number one, help these kids develop goals, because a lot of them don't have any. Really, they don't. Or you ask them what they want to do, and they go, well, yeah, I'd like to do this. And a lot of them say, I don't know. They have no idea where they want to go to college, or even if they want to go to college. They know their parents are telling them they should go to college, but they don't always, they're still trying to figure a lot of things out, some more than others. I had one young lady this last year, she already knew she wants to be a lawyer. And her softball was second to what she was trying to achieve. She left us mid-season because we had the teams worked out. She was not a starter. She was definitely a contributor and an inspiration to everybody on the team. She was probably about the smallest player on the team. But you know what? She worked as hard as any of them, or like Coach said, she might have only been about 5 foot tall, but she was about 7 foot tall in character. And, so those players have a big thing to do. They're a big part of our teams. But like she said, she had goals in mind. But a lot of your kids don't. So I hope as a coach that's one of the top things on your priority list to give to your players. Don't just go out and coach the sport you're coaching. Don't just go out and say, okay, here's the best way to hit the ball. Here's the best way to run. Here's the best way to catch. Here's the best way to block, whatever it is. All right, shoot baskets, whatever it is. Sure, those are all important things. But the players will buy into it a lot more if you give them a path and you show them the goals that they can achieve on the other end of the season. And it's not just about your sport, whatever it might be. I just see so many comparisons. I've had 2 exceptional interviews. Actually, I should say 3, because I'm looking at some of the accomplishments of Coach Welch. And I had 2 coaches on because they're in a way they were shared. Coach Welch has a record of, 46-game winning streak, 30-game winning streak, 9 CIF sectional titles, 3 CIF championships. Unbelievable here. But he also had all the years coaching experience. Well, I mentioned Coach Reikovich that I had on a few years ago, 30-some years coaching experience. I had another coach on that was also in Colorado Springs. The first name was Mike. I have to go look up his last name. And Mike, I can't. And he had set a record, and I don't know if he beat the 46 games. I thought he went 50, and it was because I sort of remember them being a new record. So I had 2 guys to do what Coach Welch did by himself at 3 different schools here. But it's pretty awesome, though. Pretty awesome to talk to that experience. Do you value the experience you have around you in your lives? Do you value the lessons you can learn from people around you in your lives? As Coach Welch said, he was a good borrower. I heard that at a clinic. I went to this all-sports clinic down here in Southern California every year. And I remember one of the first ones I went to, and I forget which coach said it, but he said the best coach, most successful coach is the best borrower. We aren't creating anything new. once in a while you might come up with something that's a little different, but it might be just different in the world where you're at. Maybe, when I started at Western, I did some drills there, and the parents said, boy, we've never seen any of those drills. I didn't make those drills up. There's one I sort of made up. But other than that, most of them I borrowed from other coaches, or I borrowed from websites where they talked about certain drills. So what can you learn from those around you? What can you learn from your players? And I remember a friend of mine, a guy named Mark Rogers, used to go to our church a number of years ago, became a pastor later, and I think he's retired from that now. But he used to play on our softball team and our basketball team. But I remember one of the things Mark used to say is he used to love and sit down and talk with senior citizens for a couple of reasons. He says, number one, they're not trying to impress you with anything. They're not going to sort of go around stories with you because they don't need to. They've lived their life. Here's their experience. Are you willing to learn from that? And again, I ask the young people today, how many of you value the experience that is around you, whether it's somebody like Coach Welch has been coaching for over 30 years or somebody that's been coaching 5 or 10 years, or maybe somebody just starting out in coaching. Every coach has had a first year. You ever think about that? Every person at every job they've done has had a first year. And in many cases, that's probably one of the toughest, is that first year, getting through that first year, getting started. And how are you going to do that unless you get a little help? You can't do it by yourself. And I've seen people try. There was a young man that took over at one of the schools when I left, and he lasted 1 year. He came in, he changed everything he could change. We had 2 different containers for equipment. We had our cart to drag the field in the bigger container in the back, along with some other stuff that we didn't always use every day. And the stuff that we used on a daily basis was in a smaller container up front. He even switched a lot of that around, I heard. He just wanted to change everything. You know what? I get that. Coaches want to come in and put their mark on it. They want it to be their program. But in this particular case, I had left the school on my turn. I wasn't fired. I wasn't asked to leave. Well, maybe I had one mom that wanted me to, but that didn't count. But I left on good terms. And after I was introduced to this young man, never heard from him again. Give me an email, give me a call, and I'll just sort of update you on where we're at and what I've done so far and go from there. Yes, it's his program. Never heard from him. So he obviously did not see any value in learning anything from me, and he had a disastrous year at that school. He had battles with the parents. He had battles with the players, and he was gone after 1 year. Now, I applaud him for, he tried to do his thing, but I think I hope if he walked away with one lesson learned there, that doing it Lone Ranger style like that doesn't usually work. And I bet most coaches would tell you that. Sure, there's going to be a few exceptions. There might be a few guys out there that are just, they're really super brilliant, or they know people well enough. And I think for coaches, that's probably the more important skill, is the people skills. What are your people skills? Because if you don't have some people skills, now you're going to make some things tougher for you. It doesn't mean you won't succeed, but it's going to be a tougher job. I've had parent coaches that I've talked to over the years that said they didn't need the parents, didn't want to talk to the parents, didn't care. And the one coach in particular was very successful. He won a national title in his sport. But I bet there were times where it was a little bit tougher for him taking that route. There's times where, that parent support can be a big plus for you. It can also be a big minus if you don't get it. So, take some of these. Learn what Coach Welch said. Did you hear that through the whole hour? The one thing Coach Welch kept talking about was his respect for those around him, whether it's officials, coaches, players, whatever. Coach Mike here at Kidz in Sports, the Rant Radio Network. I'll be back after these messages.
are the Three Guys Rant with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69-THE-3-GUYS.
It's not the three guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the Three Guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar.
Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about
Comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
Coach Mike here. Kidz and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Give me your phone calls. You want to talk about some of the experience you've learned from, give me a call, 855-969-RANT. That's 7268. Let me hear from you. You know, what have you learned particular? I can tell a couple of stories of that I learned, two that had big impacts on my life. And one was so tiny. One was such a short moment. You wouldn't think it would be anything, but it's something that really has stuck with me, and I will argue for it. And some people say, well, even my daughter said, well, somebody could take advantage of it. Kids will take advantage of it, but I don't care. If they do, then that's on them. And that's something, you know, if you see everything, if there's anything I'm going to complain about, and whether it's our government or everything going around us, is we need babysitters all the time. So many things we put into play. It's like we need babysitters to make sure everybody does everything right. And people don't like to be told what to do, but they won't take the responsibility. You know, when they make the mistake, what do they do now? And before it would be on you. You'd say, okay, I screwed up. Now it's like people want to sue somebody else because they were able to make a mistake. Why wasn't there a protection to keep them from making that mistake all the time? And so it gets real crazy. One of the first lessons I learned, I was in high school. And the football coach there was a guy named Gail Hakes. And Coach Hakes was my PE teacher my freshman year. I didn't get to play football. I ran cross country there. But I had Coach Hakes as a teacher. And I enjoyed having the class under him. He was a tough man, but he was very fair. But the lesson I got wasn't in that PE class. The lesson I got was a couple of years later. I think I was a senior, if I remember correctly, because I believe I was driving at the time. And I was leaving school early one day, and I had a pass. I did, follow the rules. And Coach Hakes was doing the monitor duty for the parking lot at the time. And so I happened to cross paths, and Coach Hakes asked me if I had a pass to leave early, and I said I did. I asked him if he'd like to see it. He says, no, I don't need to, Coach Mike. He says, I believe you. He says, if I ever find that you lied to me, then that changes. And then I won't believe you after that. And that one lesson has stuck to me. And today, yes, there are people. My daughter, because I brought this incident up when she was in high school at Santa Fe High here. There was a situation in her senior year where the computer messed up somehow. I won't say any people did it because obviously probably nobody would say they're the ones that made the mistake. Computers generally regurgitate whatever you put into them. But whatever happened, her name wasn't listed for the 6th period softball class. Didn't show her as being on the team. And so she did not need a 5th period class, I guess it was. I guess it was, let's see, 4 periods before lunch and 1 after, but then 6th or whatever. So she wanted to get a pass so she could go home and have lunch and everything, and then before she comes back for softball. She didn't need to. And I get it when it was, it was. So anyway, she was in one of the offices, one of the administrative offices one day, and even her counselor argued with her that, oh no, you're not on there. Here she is standing here in front of these people with her letter sweater on. She was one of the top 2 pitchers on the team that year. Of course, Dad, I would say she was the top pitcher. I think her record shows that sort of, but that's okay. But here she is. She's been in the newspaper and everything else. And they're like, oh, no, well, we don't know that you're on the team. And I said, can we have a little common sense here? And like one person suggested to me, have you ever known of a student that would lie to get into a class, not out of it? Okay. Do you ever see that happening? No, not usually, right? That's probably a rare one. So she got it resolved that day. The next day, the same thing was happening again. So I finally, she called me up, Dad, they're not giving me a pass. So I grabbed her letter sweater because she left it home this time, but I also grabbed a picture of her in the newspaper with the school logo on the uniform and the whole bit. And I went down there, and it turned out they had 2 administrative offices. She was in one, I was in the other. And I asked her, the principal, he happened to come through, and the associate principal, I got a chance to talk to him. I said, what message are we sending our young people if the first thing we assume is that they're lying to us? What message are we giving them if that's how we treat them first? Now, it turned out when my daughter was in the other office, they managed to track down the softball coach and got it squared away. But I hope that at least there was a little bit of consideration for that message. Are some of the kids, and maybe a lot of the kids, going to take advantage of that these days? Yeah, they probably are. And I think that's a sad statement on how we're teaching our kids if that's true. That we teach them it's not, you're not guilty until you get caught. If it's okay if you can get away with it. I really appreciate, even to this day, you're talking almost more than 40 years later, I really appreciate the respect that Coach Hakes gave me as a student then. Mike, as long, I'm going to always trust you until you prove otherwise. Do we treat other people around us that way? I hope we do. The other lesson I got was, believe it or not, from who I spoke about a little bit earlier, Frank Cush. I was doing some part-time writing for the school newspaper, and I got a chance to go interview Coach Cush. I was doing a special article on ASU's football team and all this stuff. And so I started asking him questions. Here I am, this 16-year-old kid that, didn't know a whole lot about reporting. I was sort of learning. So I wrote out some questions. I was prepared. After about the 3rd question, Coach Cush said, Mike, those questions are all answered in the media guide. He says, I'm sure you got more than that. He says, give me some time to talk with some of the other reporters here, and then I'll get back to you. And he was very polite about it, but he was firm, and that was a big lesson for me. It gave me a lesson. I was stepping up levels of interviews. I need to step up my interviewing skills. And he didn't do it in a nasty way. He's very polite, very, very firm, but said, here you go. So and I learned something from that. Do we take the time to learn those little lessons like that, or do we get mad a lot of times when somebody puts us off in any way? Do we get upset with them right away, and maybe we change our perspective, or we don't look at that as a lesson that we can learn? And I have a feeling that Coach Welch and I probably are very similar in that regard, that we look at so many things that go on around us as lessons we can learn. We don't just complain about things. I complain about a lot of things, but not always to other people. But I do. There's a lot of things we don't like that goes on around us, but sometimes we can take some lessons from some of these things as they occur. So Look for lessons in your life. When you strike out, that's one thing I tell my girls. Are you going to walk back to the dugout with your head hanging and you're mad at yourself because you struck out, or you're mad at the umpire because you didn't agree with his call, or whatever, or you feel like a failure? Or do you run back to the dugout and talk to your teammates about, hey, where was that pitched? Was it where I thought it was? Or did I swing late? Or what did I do? What could I have done better? Baseball and softball are pretty cool sports. You can fail 2/3 of the time and still be successful. We talked about that last week. But you're only going to be successful 1/3 of the time if you learn from the other 2/3. And maybe you can even up your success rate to 40%, maybe even 50%. In softball, it's not uncommon. But you're not going to do it unless you take the time to learn. 855-969-RANT. Give me your calls. What lessons have you learned? What lessons can we learn from blown calls by officials? I'm looking at a thing here, blogger, let's see, Titletown Talk. Josh Brown is the editor of Sports Writer, Joe Chandler, Sports Writer, looking at their website here. And they were obviously upset by the blown call yesterday, but now I see they do have a little bit of a bias there since they're Boston people. I look at this, and there's always going to be blown calls. I don't want to see instant replay hardly at all. I get it during the home run deal because the umpires are 100 feet away, and if it's not clear whether the ball hit just over that yellow line or whatever, I get it. But I'm looking at one of the pictures that they've got on their blog here, and they're saying about how they were, the call was blown, and it was so obvious that the call was blown. Well, the picture they're showing here doesn't show that it's blown because you can't see home plate. You cannot see home plate because this is before the tag came in. I would imagine if I'm looking at this from the top that the Tampa Bay runner's toe is just barely getting to home plate now based on what I saw on the live video feeds last night, or the recorded video feeds. Now, I do like the comments that the umpire Jerry Mills admitted after the game he got the call wrong, but should a game's fate rest only in one person's eyes? My answer is simply no. Everyone can't see everything, which is why every other sport has instituted instant replay to determine close calls. Now, he says, I'm not going to drone on about how many games this has potentially cost teams, and I'm not saying implement a system of instant replay to see if a guy is out at first or second. But when it is a 2-1 game and the tying run comes into home plate and is safe, but instead called out, something needs to be done. Now, what if it was the other way around? He said, don't give me about tradition and all that. But what if it had been the other way around? Okay, what if that would have been what if he was out and he was was called safe? Would they be blogging about how he needs instant replay? Probably not. They'd probably be saying, oh, no, we got to accept the calls. That's the way it's always been. I don't know. I don't know that I want to see it. Why do other sports have it? Well, okay, let's take a look at football, for example, since they had a football coach on the air today. Isn't it a little bit easier to show instant replay in football? And I think it's a little more important because in football, you have 22 players on the field. So things happen in piles. And even though you've got, 5 referees on the field or 6, they're not going to see everything, even with those piles, because of the different angles, and you have 3 or 4 people, and the game moves so fast. Now, the same thing with this particular call yesterday. It moves so fast that I can see why the umpire blew the call. From where he was standing, he couldn't see the guy's foot. So it's easy for him to say, hey, I saw it like he was being tagged. I called him out. He's out. Why can't we accept that? Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports. The Rant Radio Networks will be back in a minute.
Hey, bro, this is a good game. You know what would make it better?
What, bro?
A michelada.
A michelada? What's a michelada?
A michelada is somewhere in the middle of a Mexican Bloody Mary and a Mexican margarita.
Oh, I got you covered, bro.
You got a cup in your pocket?
No, sir. I got my pocket-sized michelada. Mucho macho michelada.
Pocket size?
Pocket size, so you can take it with you anywhere you go.
Where'd you get that at?
At the nearest convenience store, and you can also buy it at muchomachomichelada.com.
You know what will make it better? After we get drunk, if they had a line we could call.
We can call their drunk line. You can leave a message and then log on to the site and listen to your stupidity afterwards.
What's that number?
It's 855-MICHE-69.
What's that number again?
855-MICHE-69.
Awesome. Mucho macho michelada.
The experts know that for pastry, Baker's Bodega has it all. Exclusive brands like Westco Bankmark, Satin Ice, and Pastry Pride. One-on-one day seminars for cake decorating and gelatin art. So for our service, wide range of ingredients and supplies, and for the low prices, Baker's Bodega has it all. But you don't need to be an expert. Baker's Bodega, 7869 Paramount Boulevard in Pico Rivera. Come, we're waiting for you.
TheTicketSurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. TheTicketSurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out, we're your people. Concepts, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
Okay. How many games have you lost because of a blown call? 855-969-RANT. You know, if we play any sport, you know, we've seen it. And I see it's Josh Brown that wrote the article, put his name at the end of it. Usually you got him up at the front, but that's cool. You know, Josh, just to say, you know, if you get to hear this, that I like what I learned over the years and a few college coaches would talk about is don't complain to the umpire about that one call, but look at yourselves. Why didn't you score another run? Why did you let the other team get the runs that they did? You can't put it on that one thing. There's too many other factors there. But the one that cracks me up about this call yesterday between Boston and Tampa Bay is everybody's saying how obvious it was. The only view that it is clearly obvious is the still view looking at it on a big screen TV from the home plate side. The umpire is in the middle of the lines. He's behind the catcher out to the front here, okay? The only place it's clear is if you're looking at it from the home plate side or straight down from a camera, straight down on top. And even there, the action is so quick and the dust being kicked up, it's almost impossible to tell for a couple of the views. If you look at the video, it's almost impossible to tell. Have you ever heard that thing about a tie goes to the runner? And a good umpire and a good coach will tell you there is no such thing as a tie. You know, when you go through umpire training, they tell you there's no such thing as a tie. You make a call, safe or out. If there was ever a play close enough to a tie, this has got to be one of them. Because the runner's foot barely gets the one corner of the plate because he kicks his foot out as he slides across the plate. Barely catches the corner of it, and Molina tags him right almost. It's as close to simultaneous as you can get. Now he says, Brown comments that every other major sport has instant replay. What about basketball? Is basketball really got instant replay now? I don't think they do. But if they do, I'd be surprised. I would hate to see that in basketball. That would be unbelievable. I would think that would ruin the game of basketball. Okay? And what are you gonna have the instant replay on? because every foul is a judgment call, and every an umpire could call a foul on just about every play there is. So where are you going to have instant replay in basketball? Okay? Football, they could tell you the referees could throw a flag on every play if they wanted to. Some referee in football could throw a flag on every play. Okay, now give Josh credit on this. If it was going to be used, I would probably see you're going. I don't like this because you're going to open a can of worms. You're going to put a slippery slope in there no matter where you go. If you open it up just at home plate, well then, gee, why shouldn't we have it at third base too? Because now that runner's only 90 feet away, and a pass ball could mean the difference of a run. And if we do it at third, why don't we go ahead and do it at second now? Because a single would score that run. You see how easy it goes? Once we open this door at one spot, it's only a half step to open that door wider and wider and wider. And baseball is too long. Now, I agree. I like Josh's last days. I like when games are decided by who actually earned the win and not by missed call, which happens, and it's not the umpire's fault. It's time to get instant replay in baseball for every team. Oh, no, okay, that's not the part. Let's see, where was it? Oh, technology has come a long way, and the MLB and BBWAA need to realize that it doesn't add much extra time onto a game more than all the batters fixing their gloves or pitchers walking around the mound for no reason. When you compare it to that, yes, but it would add the time. And if you're going to stop those guys from doing that, from the time they waste, then I'll compromise with this. Okay, we'll put it at home plate or something. But until you're willing to stop all the other things that slow the game down, baseball takes way too long. A baseball game, you're looking at 3 and 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, most games. Softball game, we're done in 2 hours, 7 innings. You're usually done in 2 hours, unless it goes extra innings. The game is quicker, it gets done. It's games that take longer are the ones where there's a lot of scoring generally. But if you get a pitcher's duel, it's over quicker. But baseball, yes. You before you worry about putting instant replay on the blown call, speed the game up, please. And I'm sorry, I don't like to pick on the baseball player. I'll probably never be able to get a pro baseball player on my show, maybe, because I'm sorry that you guys need to set the example. If there is a sport where you guys are acting like prima donnas, it's baseball. Because what do? Did you walk up to home plate when you were in high school or when you were on your travel team, or did you run up to home plate when it was your turn to bat? Did you run away, or at least walked a lot faster? These guys sort of walk up to the plate, waiting to get the applause, waiting to hear the music. Okay, there's some entertainment. If it's a 0-0 game or a tie game and a big home run hitter's walking up and you get the fans going, oh, okay, I can tolerate some of that. Some of that's pretty cool. But not every batter. Okay? It seems like it takes 10 minutes for each batter to get up there and get ready to and then each pitch they got to stop and they, it shouldn't take that long. I can't say that it's making you that much better for that extra time. I just don't see it. I don't get it. I have a pet peeve because baseball is the only sport that I know of where the opposing teams never shake hands. And I said, well, it's so competitive. This is we're each win is so important. Okay, then do it at the end of the series. If nothing else, the last time you're going to see that team, the last game, players should shake each other's hands. We have our kids do it in every sport, literally. Baseball's the only one you don't see it. Tennis, what happens at the end of the match? These two players are battling each other. They're just as serious as anybody else. At the end of the match, they walk to the net and shake hands. Football, you see the players go greet each other. Maybe not the old teams, but they go find old teammates. The coaches go and shake hands. Basketball, I see the same thing. Why not baseball? Why don't we see that in baseball? So, Josh, if you don't like tradition as far as why we shouldn't put instant replay, don't give me tradition either about why teams don't shake hands At least at the last game of the last series of the season. Give me that one game. I'd love it. It'd be a good example for our kids. It still should be sportsmanship out there. And baseball players quit arguing with the umpires on balls and strikes all the time. Was Big Papi beat up the cooler and everything else the other night because he got called on a strike 3 and I didn't see the pitch before that. Obviously, there was a pitch before that he must not have agreed with. But the third strike was not a called strike. He swung at a pitch that he was fooled on, obviously, very badly. Well, learn not to get fooled on that pitch. But to put on a display like that, I think that's terrible. That's teaching our kids to be competitive? No, it's not. It's teaching them how to act like, to be out of control. I'd like to use other words, but I'm not going to do that. Okay? David Ortiz is a great player, but come on. Why do we got to do that? Why do we got to go beating up the cooler and everything else? If you feel that angry that you got to go beat some up, why are you doing it in front of 50,000 fans and the TV audience and everything else? Go have yourself a punch room underneath the stadium in the locker room or something. But these guys turn around arguing balls and strikes with the umpires all the time. I don't have a big pride time once in a while. Players, they turn around and say, "Oh, was that pitch just hit the corner, or was it just caught the knees?" Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But don't be walking away arguing, shaking your head, arguing with the umpire all the time. You heard what Coach Welch said. If we didn't have the officials, we wouldn't have the sport. Not at the pro levels. Are we always going to learn how to play? Sure we are. Sure. We got to get a new time clock. Our time clock's busted. Don't you love that in a game when you're watching a football game or something, the stadium clocks go out? The time is being kept on the field. How do you know you got it right? Anyway, but let's get that right. Okay? We could make a whole video movie about all the blown calls in different sports. But it's just we get a lot of blown calls in life. We get a lot of things that are unfair in life too. And how do we handle it? We handle it by complaining to the umpire, or do we accept it and move on? And that's something I'd like to see get back. I think if I saw more of that, then I wouldn't have, there's going to be a time you're going to lose your cool and argue with the umpire, but it's just happening way too often now. You can't hardly watch a game that it doesn't happen. It just seems like every day there's some coaches getting ejected, and it's like if they don't get ejected, then they're not doing their job. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I just don't agree with that. Showing disrespect, going over the line is not a benefit, is not a positive. Doesn't mean you're doing your job. I don't remember his last name. The guy named Chuck was head of the officials at the Ponytail League my daughter was in years ago. When I got my first high school job, Chuck told me first, "Mike, if you ever go to argue with an umpire, question a call on an umpire," he says, never, never, never pull the rule book out of your pocket. Don't go out there with a rule book because you will be in the parking lot real quick. And that was a good lesson. I had a parent, my first year, we had a call, or not, it wasn't so much a call, but it was a rule situation we had a disagreement on. And one of my parents actually went to his car and got a rule book out and came back with it to give to me to go show the umpire the rule. And I told him, "No, put that thing away." It's a sort of an unwritten rule out there, but what are you doing? You pull the rule book out, you're showing up the umpire. You're disrespecting the umpire because you're basically telling them you don't know the rules. Now, if the umpire asks you to check out or pull the book out and check it, that's different. But don't you go pulling it out to argue a call. You will get a free ride real quick. So let's remember, let's get a little more respect back in the games at all levels. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's take a commercial break. I got one more segment. We've had 2 hours of fun today. Where were you? How come you haven't called me? 855-969-RANT. When I get back from this break, give me a call. Don't leave me hanging.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanch, and I'm always joined by
Edgar, Carlos Mandrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Swing it.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
We're having too much fun here. More fun than anybody deserves to have. Well, I'm not doing anything. Well, I'm doing something. Coach Mike here, Kidz and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. Get your Kidz and Sports app at the Google Play Store. Just search Kidz and Sports, Kidz and SPORTS, and you will find the Kidz and Sports app. You can order custom lineup cards. You can call the show from the app. You can email me. You can watch the last show. I always update. So the last show will be on there. You can watch that right on your cell phone. Isn't that cool? 855-969-RANT. That's 7268. Give me a call. You've left me hanging this hour. I've only got one segment left. Better late than never. Oh, that's great. Where was I? I was complaining about calls or something, right? We could all do that. For those of you that have not listened to my show before, you might have heard me mention that I did get tossed once. My claim to fame, I sort of feel, is I've never been thrown out of any game, but I had to modify that to say I've never been thrown out of any game that I've coached or played in, whether it be slow pitch, fast pitch, coach in high school, whatever. I did get thrown out as a scorekeeper when I was keeping score for my daughter's high school team a few years back. And I wasn't the one. It was an unfair call. I wanted instant replay because I shouldn't have been thrown out. I actually had a parent came up to me after it was a doubleheader, so between games they switched umpires, so I was able to come back the second game. If you're a coach or a player and you get kicked out, you have to do a one-game sit-out. But there was a very elderly gentleman was the home plate umpire, and he was having a tough day. The other coach was on him, opposing coach was on him at the beginning of the game. In the first inning, both both sides were giving the guys some grief because they God bless them, they were trying, but we need some new blood out there from that standpoint is because there's a lot of very elderly officials that are retiring that probably like to retire sooner than they do, but they don't have enough young umpires coming in. It's not some bad money. You can make some pretty good money umpiring. I just don't want to get hit by the ball, right? I'm a chicken there. But anyway, this guy was getting grief from both sides. So one time he came over to give our coaches a warning because they were on him about a call. But it was, whatever it was, I think the one coach didn't really complain about a call. I made a sort of a generic statement, which really wasn't that bad. And the guy came over, and all I said was somebody's being a little too sensitive here. And I, didn't direct. I was sitting outside the dugout, and I was in the stands. And a couple other parents made other comments, I guess. So he comes over, and he glances at the stands, and I guess I was the closest one. He says, you're out of here. So my daughter laughed at me. She said, well, there goes your record, Dad. So I had to modify it. I've never been thrown out of any game I've played in or coached. I did have one of my players one year felt I should have argued with an umpire more over a situation. I felt I pushed the limit quite a bit. It was a matter of a player came in and took out my catcher, had her arms up, did not attempt to slide or anything. This is something you can do in baseball. You can't do it in softball. The umpire called the girl out, threw her out, and he tossed her out of the game. But then when their other coach came out and protested, he rescinded and said, well, okay, he wouldn't throw her out of the game. So I called time and went to him and said, look, there's no gray area here. It was black and white. She came in, elbows up. She should have been tossed from the game. And we had a conversation for a minute over this. And, I lodged my protest, but I finally walked out. It was pretty clear the umpire was not going to change his mind. So my player made a comment to me that she thought I should have backed her up. I said, look, I backed you up. I agree with you. The player should have been tossed. But it's at the point where the umpire's not going to change their mind. And me arguing to the point of getting thrown out was not going to change that. And it was does not defend my player anymore. And young people see that and they hear that message, mostly I would say from Major League Baseball, but I don't know that they understand the level of it. And maybe I don't get it. Maybe if you want to tell me I'm totally wrong on this, let me hear from you. Send me an email or give me a call. You're almost out of time to call, but I don't think I am. I think, the umpires, if you approach an umpire appropriately, you call time, you can argue the call. Most umpires will allow you that, and most umpires, I think, are pretty resilient and will tolerate you to push, but you got to know where to draw the line. And here's another lesson you take to your work and stuff too. How many people out there have been fired because they didn't know when to stop complaining? They didn't know where to draw that line about something that wasn't right. There's always going to be time when something isn't fair, something didn't go our way. And if we complain, man, I think we're getting to a point almost in some areas of our life and our society where we spend more time complaining than we do moving on and looking for success and trying, because especially things that really don't affect us that much. Really, now, there is an argument that's brought up by a number of the blogs and stuff on the call yesterday. These guys are a millionaire, just like in the sports science thing on umpires. You're playing with highly paid professional athletes that, deserve the right call in a way, and to that degree. The umpires are paid pretty good money for what they do, but they are paid that because they're the best at what they do. But does that mean we should give any less respect when mistakes are made? How would it be? Could you just imagine how would it be if every time a player struck out, a called third strike on a pitch was right down the middle of the pipe, and they stood there frozen with the bat on their shoulder? How would you like it if the umpire suddenly turned around and started yelling at the player? Why didn't you swing that bat? Or even if the coach came out and just started chewing on the player every time. Can you imagine if that scenario was turned around like that? Where would we learn that lesson a little bit quicker, maybe? Okay, so why is it okay to be on the umpires? Why has that tradition been allowed that it's the cool thing to do? And there's different arguments to all levels of it, whether it's okay to boo the umpires. I know there's a lot of people out there that feel we shouldn't boo anybody, okay? But there's sort of like this, to voice your disagreement about how a call goes seems to be a tradition that we have, but it's taken too far. When you have youth league officials or high school officials that at times have to fear for their life, and some have even lost their life over a call or calls they made in a game? Can we agree that that went too far? Can agree that maybe by allowing things to get out of hand before that point happened, before the incident happened, that we pushed it too far? Can we agree on that? So let's learn those lessons we got around from us, and let's treat everybody with respect. And let's quit worrying about something that doesn't go our way all the time. How are you going to teach your kids to move on in life when we do the things we do as adults? And I don't care how many times Charles Barkley says a professional athlete isn't a role model. They are. Whether you should be or not, that's a different story. Okay? You heard what Coach Welch said. He looked up the people he looked to, priests, teachers, other coaches, even some players. We learn, we respect, but we appreciate for who they are and what they do. Why can't we put that as the priority instead of complaining about what we don't do all the time? We don't like it when somebody complains to us, do we? We don't want to hear that we're wrong. Do you ever hear that? No. What's the greatest accolade you can get? Well, here's a cool one I just found. Did you know Coach Welch had a football stadium named after him at Canyon High School after he'd been a teacher there for 37 years? Had won all sorts of titles with him. The school board had back in, it was on my birthday in 2007, March 8, 2007. The Hart District School Board voted to rename Canyon High School Athletic Stadium the Harry Welch Stadium. Now, they said there were a few people that protested, but I guess most people were fully in favor of it. A unanimous vote. And they said it may not be permanent. They may change it. And there was an example for that. One of the school board members brought up that the name change isn't necessarily permanent. He brought up an example of when he was at Granada High when the football stadium was named after the school's principal. However, they again changed it later, and the stadium carries the name of perhaps its most famous athletic alumni, some guy that played a little football named Elway. So, but you know what? That is a pretty cool honor. To get to that level, that people love you that much that they want to give you that honor. And I think it's appropriate we do that, but again, within reason. Remember, we're all human. Even Coach Welch, I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you, he's human. I can imagine. I heard a lot of humbleness in the way he talked today on the show. And I sort of imagine there was some humbleness when they named the stadium after him. He might have been one of the first persons to say, you know what, I got a bunch of other kids here that I coached that should have their names up there too. Wouldn't it be a cool idea for an honor roll? A lot of coaches like to have on a website or on a wall in the school locker rooms with the names of all the successful players they've had that have graduated and moved on. What if we did that at the outside of the stadium? Well, you know, after 37 years, I bet they could cover the whole stadium with all those names. Now, that would be pretty cool, too. That would be pretty cool. Remember to teach first and win later. I liked what Coach Welch said, that when he first started coaching, he thought he was so cool because he made that player be who they were and went on to play in the pros. And it wasn't until later when he realized he didn't make them. They were already made. They were already the fine athlete that they were. He just added a little extra polish onto that diamond. He just made it shine a little bit brighter. And if we can do that, not just as coaches, can we do that as parents? Sure we can. Can we do it as players? Sure we can. If we encourage our teammates, if the seniors help out the freshmen that are coming in, help out the younger players, it all adds to that polish. It all makes the team shine a little brighter. I've had a lot of fun today. I especially enjoyed the honor of talking with Coach Welch. I wish I could sit down for a couple more hours with him and talk about some of the stories that he has. Write that book, Coach Welch. I hope you do it. Thanks for tuning in, Kids in Sports. Coach Mike here at the Rant Radio Networks. We'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great week and a safe one, too.